A creature extinct for millennia is reborn in the 21st century. Anaya, a saber-toothed tigress discovered in a state of suspended animation, created in a laboratory, and trained to live free, she is a symbol of hope and mystery. Her existence reveals forgotten secrets, including the true death of her mother by prehistoric hunters. Guided by ancient instincts, Anya follows a calling and discovers she was never alone. But before we begin, subscribe to our channel and leave your like. Now, let's get started. The saber-toothed tiger beneath our feet. What secrets lie frozen beneath our feet, waiting to be uncovered? What stories of survival, tragedy, and impossible miracles are trapped in the icy grip of time? In the vast and desolate steppes of Siberia, a group of scientists was about to make a discovery that would not only rewrite history books, but also challenge the very laws of life and death. They found a creature from the Ice Age, a magnificent saber-toothed tiger preserved in the permafrost like a statue of frozen amber. But this was no mere fossil. As they began examining it, they noticed something unimaginable, something that sent chills down their spines. A faint, almost imperceptible movement within. They weren't digging up a corpse, but standing on the brink of a miracle that had waited 10,000 years. If stories that blur the line between science and the impossible, between past and present, ignite your curiosity, then you have found your place in the world. Consider joining us at Animal Fury and hit the bell, because we're about to witness an event even science can't explain. Prepare yourself, for the ice of Siberia is about to reveal a living secret. In the heart of the Sakha Republic, Siberia's vast and lonely frozen tundra, climate change is forcing the Earth to reveal its oldest secrets. The permafrost, soil frozen for millennia, is melting at an alarming rate, and with every inch that gives way, it exposes the remains of a lost world. Here, Dr. Dmitry Volkov, a world-renowned paleontologist, leads a small, dedicated team. Their mission? To seek the remains of Ice Age megafauna, woolly mammoths, cave bears, and the rarest jewel of all, the Smilodon, the saber-toothed tiger. For weeks, the expedition was arduous and largely fruitless. The cold was relentless, the wind cut like a knife, and the terrain was treacherous. The group was about to lose hope, but one day, a local hunter from the Abenki tribe named Anaya approached the camp. Using sign language and a few words of Russian, she spoke of an ice-tusked beast she had seen emerging from the rapidly thawing riverbank 2 days' walk to the north. Anya's description sparked a flicker of excitement in Dr. Volkov. A whole animal, not just scattered bones, was any paleontologist's dream. Despite some team members' skepticism, Volkov trusted the hunter's ancestral knowledge. They prepared a smaller expedition and followed Anya across the barren landscape. After 2 exhausting days, they reached the riverbank, and there it was, half buried in frozen mud and crystalline ice. The sight took their breath away. A female saber-toothed tiger, not a skeleton but a body, almost perfectly preserved. Her ochre-colored fur, streaked faintly with stripes, was still intact. Her lips were drawn back in a final snarl, revealing the 2 20-centimeter-long fangs that gave her name, as sharp and lethal as the day she died. She lay on her side, powerful forepaws curled as if protecting something. A time capsule, a tragic and beautiful snapshot of life over 10,000 years ago. The team worked with feverish delicacy. They erected a climate-controlled tent over the discovery to manage the thawing process, and began carefully excavating the ice and mud around the body. Each inch revealed a new wonder. The texture of paw pads, battle scars on the muzzle, the incredible muscle development in her shoulders and neck. Dr. Volkov was ecstatic. This discovery would cement his place in scientific history. But the story was far from over. The mystery of the pregnant tigress. As the team freed the body from the ice's embrace, they began noticing something strange about the tigress's posture. As mentioned, she was curled up, but in a protective and almost desperate way. Her paws were not relaxed in death. On the contrary, they were tense, wrapped around her own abdomen. It was the group's biologist, Dr. Lena Petrova, who first noticed the detail. In a near whisper, she called Dr. Volkov's attention. "Dmitry, look at this." Upon closer inspection, it became clear the tigress was pregnant, in a very advanced stage of gestation. The revelation silenced the tent, creating an atmosphere of solemnity and respect. The story of the creature was no longer just the death of a magnificent predator, but the tragedy of a mother and her unborn cub. The pain of that loss echoed across millennia. The team continued their work with extreme care, using high-tech equipment to scan the body before fully removing it from the ice. Each step forward was met with fascination and reverence, aware of the rarity of the find. Then a young technician named Sergei Sergey, responsible for monitoring a portable low-frequency ultrasound scanner, made a discovery that would change everything. He passed the device over the tigress's abdomen, trying to confirm the fetus's presence and condition. Suddenly, Sergey frowned and leaned closer to the screen. With a trembling voice, he said, "Doctor, you need to see this." Dr. Volkov approached, expecting to see a static image of a fetal skeleton, but what he saw on the screen made his scientific heart, trained in logic and reason, stop for a moment. Inside the tigress's uterus, in the grainy ultrasound image, there was a small pulse. A slow, rhythmic flicker, almost imperceptible, but undeniable. A heartbeat. This sight defied all modern scientific understanding. How could there be a pulse, a life beating, after 10,000 years frozen in permafrost? It was a miracle, a living enigma, challenging the limits of possibility. The air in the tent grew heavy, charged with emotion, fear, and disbelief. The team knew this discovery would not only mark a milestone in paleontology, but a turning point for all biology and the understanding of life. They immediately began taking extreme precautions to preserve the tigress and her fetus, using special climate-controlled chambers and strict protocols to prevent any damage. Time seemed to both speed up and slow down as they prepared for the next phase, trying to bring this frozen secret to light. Meanwhile, scientists from around the world were notified and started mobilizing their teams to follow the journey. The news spread quickly, and experts in genetics, molecular biology, and cryopreservation were eager to contribute. There was hope and fear, for what they were about to witness could change everything known about life, death, and the possibility of reviving extinct organisms. The idea of a living saber-toothed tiger, or even a viable embryo after millennia frozen, seemed straight out of a science fiction film, yet scientific rigor and respect for life guided every step of this brave team, who faced extreme temperatures and the uncertainty of the unknown. They knew the world was watching, and their actions could open doors to a new era of science, with profound implications for conservation, genetics, and ethics. The ice of Siberia, guardian of the past secrets, was beginning to yield, revealing not just remains, but a living, pulsing miracle waiting silently to be discovered. Miracle and race against time. "This is impossible," whispered Lena, looking over Volkov's shoulder. "It must be interference from the team. It has to be." But Sergey shook his head, eyes fixed on the ultrasound screen. "I recalibrated 3 times. The signal is weak, but it's biological. Doctor, there's a heartbeat. Something is still moving inside her." The atmosphere inside the tent shifted from scientific excitement to incredulous awe. How could this be? A heart beating after 10,000 years frozen. The idea defied all known laws of biology. Volkov, struggling to keep his composure, ordered complete silence and adjusted the audio equipment connected to the scanner. He turned up the volume to the maximum, and then everyone heard a faint, deep-spaced sound. Boom, boom, boom. The sound of a heart refusing to give up, beating through millennia. The news spread like wildfire through the scientific community. It was madness, an impossibility. But the data was there. The most plausible explanation, although still fantastic, was a phenomenon known as natural cryopreservation. The mother tigress's body must have been caught in a sudden freezing event, a flash freeze that preserved her tissues at a cellular level, and the fetus, protected inside the sterile and perfectly isolated environment of the uterus, with its incredibly low metabolism, had entered a state of suspended animation so deep it touched death but did not cross the line. The slight warming of the permafrost in recent years, combined with the heat of the climate-controlled tent, had been enough to slowly restart its most basic vital functions. Now, the team faced a dilemma and a race against time, unlike any other in human history. They had a living prehistoric fetus inside a mother who had been dead for millennia. The mother's body was decomposing rapidly now that it had thawed. If they wanted any hope of saving the creature, they had to act fast. They needed to perform the most extraordinary cesarean in history. The team's hearts beat as fast as the mysterious fetuses. Advanced medical equipment was quickly installed, while everyone prepared for the operation that would challenge not only science, but the very understanding of life and death. Time was not on their side. The fetus needed to be removed, stabilized, and cared for in a controlled environment before death could claim it. As the helicopter prepared to transport the team and specimen to a specialized lab, a mixture of fear, hope, and fascination took hold of everyone there. The future of biology, genetics, and even humanity itself might be rewritten on that remote Siberian tundra. Anaya, from miracle to survival. A helicopter was urgently called, and the ice block containing the saber-toothed tigress was transported with extreme care to a high-tech research institute in Yakutsk, the capital of the Republic of Sakha. There, a team gathering the world's best veterinarians, biologists, and surgeons worked under immense pressure, aware of the historic responsibility they bore. The operation took place in a sterilized surgical center and was broadcast live to multiple observation rooms, where scientists watched in stunned disbelief at what they witnessed. With near artistic precision, they opened the ancient predator's uterus and, with infinite care, removed a small creature from inside. It was a tiny saber-toothed tiger cub covered in soft, damp fur, trembling violently but not breathing. The silence in the room was absolute, as if time had stopped. Lena Petrova, with tears in her eyes, took the cub in her hands, vigorously rubbing it with warm towels to stimulate circulation while clearing its airways. "Come on, little one," she whispered, her voice full of hope and love. "You fought for 10,000 years. Fight a little more." The following seconds seemed eternal. The miracle seemed to have ended in tragedy, but then the little cub's chest contracted once, then twice, until with a faint cry and a trembling cough, the last saber-toothed tiger on planet Earth took its first breath in the 21st century. The miracle was not only real, it was alive, and it was about to face a world that was no longer its own. The birth, or rather rebirth of the cub, was celebrated by naming it Anaya, in honor of the Abenki hunter who guided the team to the discovery site. The event caused a global sensation, making headlines worldwide. Anaya was a living miracle, a ghost of the Ice Age walking among humans. However, for Dr. Volkov and Dr. Petrova's team, the initial euphoria quickly gave way to the harsh reality of their responsibility. They held the last specimen of a species extinct for thousands of years. Every decision, from the amount of food to the smallest care, was a journey into completely unknown territory, an unprecedented adventure. Anya was raised in a state-of-the-art biosecure enclosure, specially designed to replicate as faithfully as possible the frozen steppe conditions of the Ice Age. There she would be protected, but also prepared to develop her natural instincts. Dr. Lena Petrova became her surrogate mother, spending days and nights with the cub. She fed Anaya with a special formula, constantly monitored her health, and, perhaps most importantly, provided emotional stimulation and affection, things her real mother could never have given her. The bond formed between the biologist and the prehistoric creature was deep and moving, marked by a mix of science, emotion, and hope. As Anya grew, her nature as an apex predator began to manifest impressively. Despite being incredibly playful, her games were brutal and full of wild energy. She hunted, pounced, and practiced lethal bites on Kevlar-reinforced toys, simulating the skills she would need to survive naturally. Her two milk teeth, already disproportionately large for her size, fell out to give way to her definitive weapons. Two ivory fangs growing rapidly like sharp daggers that would be her tools for hunting and defense. Anya was not just a relic of the past, she was new life, a living bridge between what once was and what could be. However, the challenges were just beginning. The team knew that raising and maintaining such a singular animal in a modern world utterly different from that of her ancestors would require innovation, patience, and a deep understanding of what it means to preserve a species and its legacy. Moreover, ethical and scientific questions arose at every turn. What was their role in this rebirth? Would they be guardians or merely observers of a living piece of history? And most importantly, what did the future hold for Ania and her species' potential? While the world watched in wonder, the team worked to ensure this living miracle was not just a fleeting moment, but a lasting symbol of nature's and science's incredible capacity to surprise and inspire. Anaya, between science and nature. Ania's body developed with astonishing speed, transforming into a compact mass of muscles and explosive power. She was more robust and stronger than any known modern feline, built like a true little tank, capable of impressing even the most experienced specialists. Despite the terrifying power her body commanded, Anya was gentle with Lena Petrova, her surrogate mother. Her behavior resembled that of a giant domestic cat, seeking human affection with deep, continuous purrs, a strange, almost mechanical sound like a diesel engine's rumble, enchanting and surprising everyone around her. While the world marveled at this living creature, Dr. Dmitry Volkov remained obsessed with a fundamental question: how did her mother die? The nearly perfect preservation of the saber-toothed tigress's body allowed the paleontologist to perform a detailed autopsy, a necropsy performed after a 10,000-year interval. What he discovered added a profound layer of mystery and tragedy to the already remarkable story. The tigress had not died from hunger, disease, or old age. The cause of death was a wound, a single penetrating lesion, strange and precise, located on her flank. Curiously, this wound did not match the teeth of any known predator of her time. It was not the bite of a cave bear, nor the claws of another Smilodon. It was something different, almost artificial. The wound had become severely infected, and it was this infection, a severe septicemia, that slowly killed her in agony. The tigress had sought refuge in the place that would become her frozen tomb, desperately trying to protect the unborn cub she carried. This discovery haunted Volkov. The story, which had once seemed a simple accident of nature, was now turning into a prehistoric murder mystery. Who, or what, had caused such a peculiar wound? The answer still lay behind the veil of time, unreachable. 2 years had passed since then. Anya, now a magnificent sub-adult, had become a predator at the peak of her physical power. Her presence was impressive, increasingly close to the strength her ancestors possessed in the ancient Ice Age steppes. The outside world clamored to see her, seduced by the idea of witnessing a living miracle. However, the scientific team refused to turn Anya into a mere zoo attraction or spectacle. The ultimate goal was far more ambitious and complex: species reintroduction. They wanted to release her into a vast, protected natural park in Siberia, an enclosed ecosystem with thousands of square kilometers, carefully selected to replicate the saber-toothed tigress's original habitat. The hope was to discover if her ancestral instincts were still strong enough to allow her to survive and hunt on her own. The journey to return Anya to her natural world was full of scientific, ethical, and environmental challenges. Could a predator extinct for millennia really find its place again in nature? The experiment was not only about the survival of an animal, it was a bold attempt to revive a lost part of the planet, a fragment of life's history that seemed destroyed forever. Meanwhile, Volkov and Petrova's team prepared for the next phase of this epic adventure, aware that the answer could forever change our understanding of life, extinction, and nature itself. Anya survival in the modern world. The decision to release Anya into the natural environment was an enormous risk, but the team believed it was the only ethical way to honor her existence. After spending so much time under intensive human care, Anya needed to return to her roots and rediscover the predator she was born to be. The preparation for her release was intensive and meticulous. To stimulate her hunting skills, the team gradually reduced direct feeding, hiding deer carcasses and other animals inside the enclosure so that Anya could find and tear them apart on her own. This process aimed to rekindle her natural instincts, essential for her future survival. Human contact was minimized as much as possible, with the painful exception of Lena Petrova, who emotionally prepared Anya for the imminent farewell. Each passing day, the sadness in Lena's eyes grew, aware that she would soon have to let go of the creature she had raised as her own daughter. Finally, the day of release arrived. Anya, now an imposing beast of almost 200 kilograms, was sedated with extreme care and transported by helicopter to the center of the reintroduction park, a wild and protected area designed to replicate her ancient natural habitat. Before release, the team fitted a monitoring collar with GPS and cameras to track her movements and behavior. Lena gave one last tight hug to Anya, whispering farewell words into her thick ochre fur. "Be strong, my girl. You are the last of your lineage. Show the world who you are." When Anya woke up, she was alone for the first time in her life. She found herself in a vast forested valley, surrounded by the smells and sounds of a world both familiar and strangely new to her. Behind the screens, the team watched silently and tensely, holding their breath, eager to see if she could survive on her own. The first weeks were a huge challenge. Anya seemed disoriented, wandering aimlessly. She failed several hunts, her technique still rudimentary, unpolished by real practice. The team watched with heavy hearts, fearing they had made a grave mistake releasing her. But then, something inside Anya changed. Her instincts, dormant for 10,000 years, awakened with a thunderous force. The footage captured by the caller was spectacular. They saw her execute a perfect ambush on a deer, using the terrain, vegetation, and wind with a natural mastery no human training could teach. They saw her defend her prey against a pack of wolves, not with uncontrolled fury, but with calculated intimidation, demonstrating a conservation of movements that clearly showed her dominance of the situation. Anya was becoming what she was born to be, the top predator of her ecosystem. However, despite this triumphant rebirth, the mystery of Ania's mother's death remained unsolved. It was Anaya herself, unknowingly, who offered the final clue. One day, the caller's GPS showed she was moving toward a remote area of the park, a series of caves situated on a rocky slope. The scientific team prepared for the next chapter of this journey, hoping these caves could reveal the last secrets of the past that so intrigued Volkov. The mystery of the strange wound that killed Anaya's mother might finally be close to being solved. This new stage represented a fascinating combination of science, nature, and history, a rare chance to observe an extinct species returning to life and confronting the present. The Guardian of the Last Tigress. When the team analyzed the footage transmitted by Anaya's collar camera, they noticed something intriguing. She was not in hunting mode. There was no predatory behavior, no chasing, charging, or territorial patrolling. She seemed guided by something deeper. Her movements were determined, focused, as if following an ancestral trail, a long-forgotten scent, perhaps a call imprinted in her very instinct. Volkov, heart racing, gathered a small group, and they all boarded a helicopter heading to the location recorded by the GPS. They landed at a safe distance and carefully followed Ania's tracks, which meandered through the snow to the entrance of a dark, deep cave. As they approached the entrance, the group stopped in shock. On the stone wall to the left of the cave opening were inscriptions, but these were not claw marks or natural scratches. They were pictograms, rudimentary drawings carved by human hands from a time lost in history. Humans from the Ice Age. Volkov approached, ran his fingers over the marks, trying to absorb their meaning. The drawings told a story. First, they showed a group of hunters carrying long spears with black tips obsidian? Probably. Then, a striking scene. A magnificent saber-toothed tigress, clearly depicted with her protruding fangs, stalking prey. But the next image was disturbing. It showed the tigress surrounded by hunters. One threw a spear with surgical accuracy, the weapon piercing the beast's flank. It was impossible not to draw a parallel with the wound found on Anaya's mother's body. The same position, the same type of injury. The discovery was overwhelming. Anya's mother had not died of natural causes, nor from predators of the Pleistocene fauna. She had been mortally wounded by a human. This changed everything. The story was not only about miraculous preservation, it was also about violence, about hunting, about loss. However, the pictographic narrative did not end there. There was one last drawing, larger, central, more detailed than all the previous ones. It showed the wounded tigress fleeing the hunting scene. Behind her, surprisingly, were not the hunters. What followed was an immense creature with the recognizable silhouette of a cave bear. But the most intriguing thing was the animal's posture. It was not in an attacking position. The pictogram showed it maintaining a certain distance, following the tigress, not as a predator, but as if it were escorting her, protecting her, caring for her. Suddenly, everything made sense to Volkov. The way Anya's mother's body had been found, in a position that was not purely defensive, but conveyed a kind of surrender, of waiting. What if she wasn't just hiding from the hunters? What if she was waiting for something, or someone, an ally, a protector, a companion of a different species, but connected by mysterious bonds? What if that giant bear, perhaps the last of its own lineage, had followed the wounded tigress to her final refuge, and upon finding her dead, had simply remained there, refusing to leave her until time and cold consumed him as well? The thought was interrupted by a deep sound echoing through the cave. A roar, not a common roar. This one was deeper, more guttural, almost primitive. A sound that seemed to belong to a creature from another time, another era, a sound no team member had ever heard before. Neither in wild fauna recordings nor digital simulations, everyone's blood ran cold. Fall back, Volkov ordered softly, trying to stay calm while instinct screamed to run. Anya's collar cameras continued transmitting, pointing directly into the cave's depths. And then, from the darkness, two glowing eyes emerged. Fixed, alert, alive. Anya had not just followed a trail, she had followed a call, a blood call. The creature waiting for her in the darkness, whether the same bear from the pictogram or a direct descendant, was alive. Somehow it had survived in isolation, hidden in that complex complex of caves that protected it from the modern world, and perhaps preserved it in torpor, just as the frozen womb had saved Anya. The impossible had repeated itself. It was not only Anya who had crossed millennia, she was not alone. The true miracle was not her survival, it was the reunion, the last two remnants of a lost era, united not only by the ancestral tragedy that bound them, but by a deep bond, the instinct to protect, to remain, to remember. The modern world could watch in wonder, but would never fully understand what happened in that silent meeting, in that cave hidden from time. Anya had never been alone, and her story, or rather the story of her legacy, was only beginning. Thank you very much for watching the video. If you enjoyed our content, please subscribe to our channel and leave a like. Also, check out other interesting videos that are appearing right now on your screen, and I'll see you in the next video. See you next time.